Chapter 1: The Memorial Ceremony. On an unseasonably mild winter day, a quiet breeze drifted over the crowd gathered by the roadside, an unexpected calm for a day steeped in memory. People from neighboring towns and villages stood together on the small green, drawn here to remember a man many had known only in passing. Standing a few paces back from the group, Isobel Tamsin observed them with a reserved curiosity, her instinct as a psychologist to step back, to watch from the edges. Yet today felt different. This was personal, an old loss, tinged with a regret she hadn't expected to feel. She was here as a mourner, though she barely knew Danny O'Sullivan. Had she missed a chance to know him better? The thought tugged at her as she shifted her gaze to the center of the gathering, where a newly placed plaque, a bronze sculpture of a scrawny, dreamlike boy poised over a piano, shimmered softly in the winter light. Danny's elongated form was captured in perfect stillness, his fingers hovering just above the keys as though suspended in a perpetual moment of silence. The artist had understood something essential about him, both his fragility and the quiet beauty of his presence. A memory stirred. Danny, on the rare occasions she'd seen him, had been an almost invisible part of the background, his movements unassuming. Yet here he was now, rendered in bronze at the entrance to the plaza, his once modest life made permanent. She studied the sculpture closely, feeling the artistry in its subtle details, but also a pang of discomfort. Was it right to celebrate someone only in death? She hadn't expected to feel this kind of remorse, a sense of having missed a connection that could never be regained. As a child, Isobel had always watched people in fascination, noticing the way they seemed to fit or sometimes fumble their way into life's roles. She had thought of them as puzzle pieces, each with a place in the larger picture. Yet, standing here today, she was reminded of how often people lived without truly being seen. The crowd around her reflected this same thought, their faces marked by subtle grief and lingering questions, drawn here for a man whose significance seemed only now to emerge. The ceremony began with Liam O'Neill, a well-known trade unionist, stepping forward. He was a sturdy man with a steady, unpolished voice, made rough by years of rallying for others. Danny O'Sullivan was a man of few words but many deeds, he began, his voice carrying a weight that stilled the crowd. He was there in the background, always ready to help. He understood, better than most, what it meant to serve without expecting anything in return. Liam's words, though simple, resonated deeply with those gathered. His quiet reverence mirrored in their faces. As Liam spoke, Isobel noted the flickers of emotion in the crowd, quiet reverence, regret, an unease that rippled through them like a silent tremor. She wondered if she felt the same. Had she missed some deeper connection to Danny, one everyone else seemed to share? The question lingered, sharp and unexpected. Next, Gavin Ward, the owner of the plaza, took his place by the plaque. Blocky and assertive, he surveyed the crowd as though assessing some unseen metric, his voice crisp but detached. Danny might not have been a leader in the traditional sense, he began, but in his own way, he led us all by showing the value of simply being present. To Isobel, Gavin was the kind of person who measured loss in metrics and results, more comfortable with the sharp edges of business than the softness of grief. And yet, as he spoke, she noticed a flicker of something guarded in his gaze, as if he, too, held something back, though what, she couldn't be sure. As Gavin stepped back, people slowly came forward, each one leaving a rose at the foot of the sculpture. The roses, in shades of red and white, formed a soft carpet beneath the bronze boy, a silent offering to the memory of a man who had never sought recognition. Suzanne Green, one of Danny's regular customers, lowered her head as she placed her rose, her face marked by quiet grief and something that looked like guilt. Others followed in similar silence, each lost in their thoughts, their offerings blending into a scene that felt both poignant and surreal. Isobel watched the small gestures around her, the subtle rituals of farewell, feeling as if she was seeing fragments of Danny's life stitched together for the first time. Brief encounters, kind words, unremembered favors, all brought together here. A verse drifted into her mind, all the world's a stage. Today, Danny's story, his quiet role in the lives of those gathered, was being told. Each person here seemed to play a part, united by threads of memory and loss, shaped by forces both known and hidden. As the ceremony drew to a close, Isobel felt a shift in the crowd's collective mood, a release of something long held back. Today, Danny's invisibility had been lifted, and the quiet contributions of people like him, those who went uncelebrated in life, had been acknowledged in the open. Yet as she scanned the faces around her, she couldn't shake the feeling that something lingered, a question that still needed answering. a shadow yet to lift.